If you haven't been following the Blake Lively case against Justin Baldoni for sexual harassment and retaliation, or if you maybe tuned in for a minute, have looked at a couple of facts like he's a man, he was her boss, he harassed her. Hang on. You looked at facts like Justin Baldoni hired the same PR team as Johnny Depp, analysis done. I want to talk to you. And I want to talk about something that Blake Lively just filed, but I want to really walk through what it is we're doing here. Sexual harassment is bad. No argument from me. And men often get away with sexual harassment, right? We live in a culture that has normalized sexual harassment in all sorts of different contexts. We're tracking together. Hiring the same PR team, using the same PR tactics as Johnny Depp, bad. So what we have is a film set, and this film set was halted in June of around summer of 2023, halted by the writer's strike. So they put stuff on hold, and Blake is claiming that the sexual harassment took place in that time, right? Now, the things that she has claimed, we've seen evidence around those claims, and actually the way she described it isn't really the way it went down. So, but we're gonna take her claims as true anyway, right? Then they resume filming beginning of 2024. Before coming back to set, Blake says, in lieu of going through a sexual harassment investigation, in lieu of going through the official processes, she's saying this through her lawyers. She said, her lawyers say, in lieu of going through an official process, sign this and Blake will get back to work, right? There's all sorts of legal issues around that, but we're going to put a pin in that. I've already made content around it. Blake says, here's some 17 points that you have to agree to. Most of those points have more to do with a PGA credit. Shout out to Sarah. And there's a post on the docketreports.com where you can read about that analysis, but a few of them have to do with sexual harassment, right? So they go back to filming, they resume filming, they finish the film. In that time, Blake receives a producer credit that was not a part of her contract. She's given the ability to edit this movie, right? So these would be things that we would consider like promotions, right? Blake receives all this extra ability and power on the set. And then the rollout of the film starts happening. By the way, Blake says, no problems during the second round of filming. Everything went great. Around July, August, they're promoting this film. Now, keep in mind, that first round of filming happened in summer of 2023. So statute of limitations says you have 1 year to bring a CRD complaint. You have 1 year to go to the administrative agencies in California and make a complaint. She doesn't do that. So she's time barred on the complaints about the sexual harassment from that first round of filming. Second round of filming, we've got no problems, according to Blake herself, right? She starts promoting this film, and it is a film about domestic violence. Instead of talking about the gravity of domestic violence, how she felt connected to domestic violence offenders because she felt that she was harassed and that is a form of violence in itself, right? None of that. Grab your friends, wear your florals. This is a fun, cutesy movie. At one point, she is asked, how would you connect? Total softball question, right? You would expect the media to ask you this of a domestic violence film. How would you connect to the fans who are saying they've been through something like this? And Blake, do you want me to like location share or give them my address? Right? So Blake, very flippant about domestic violence. Justin Baldoni, on the other hand, sharing domestic violence stories, right? He's doing separate promo. Ryan Reynolds' company, by the way, is in charge of the promo that Blake Lively is doing. And predictably, when she starts promoting her alcohol brand and being really flippant about very heavy, important subjects, which is very in line with who Blake Lively is. She supported Harvey Weinstein. She supported Woody Allen. This is who we know Blake to be, right? She's getting pushed back online. So that sets us around August 8th is when this happens. She's getting pushed back online. August 12th. Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties, Wayfarer Studios, hire crisis people. Now, the pushback online against Blake is already happening. So that has nothing to do with the crisis. And yet, Blake wants you to believe that the retaliation here is at the fault of the Wayfair parties. So timeline-wise, we know that at least the initial bad reviews, bad press that Blake was getting online has nothing to do with the Crisis PR. So if you saw videos criticizing Blake Lively around that time, it actually probably had nothing to do with the alleged crisis that is the same Crisis PR that Johnny Depp used. And further, we have a recording of one of the studio producers, Steve Sarowitz. We have communications between Justin Baldoni and his publicist, Jamie Heath, a producer for Wayfair Studios, and their publicist, talking about how Blake is planting stories in the media about these men. She's planting stories in the media about these men, smearing their faith. So, first of all, first question, if smearing is bad, is it okay if a woman does it? Is that really feminism? Women are allowed to do what men do, but men aren't allowed to do it anymore. Because if the goal is to just put women where men are, allow women to act like men act, I think we've lost the plot. So there is sort of an amping up of these battles, right? And for the most part, most of the evidence that I have seen that's hit the docket, which is not all the evidence, I'm not privy to the disclosures and discovery going on between the parties, but what has come on the docket has shown that what Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, and Steve Sarowitz, who are the Wayfarer parties, what they wanted to do was focus on amplifying the message of the film, on amplifying the positive messages that Wayfarer Studios put out into the world. That is the goal of this production company, by the way, is to put out these human stories, to tell positive stories, to give positivity back into the world, for the most part. It doesn't serve them to smear the lead actress of the movie they just put out. They know that. There's communications around that. So we have no evidence that they say attack Blake in the media, but Blake still wants us to believe that's what was going on. So in December 20th, she files a CRD complaint. Untimely. And then December 23rd, she files a complaint in court. Recently, she has told the court that because they were using Signal, they have destroyed evidence. Because she wasn't allowed to access their written communications, because those written communications through Signal automatically delete, right? That's my understanding of Signal. They have spoiled evidence, which is a huge accusation. There is no preservation demand anywhere in here. In fact, before December 20th, they really have no reason to believe she would bring a sexual harassment complaint because, again, second round of filming, no problems. She's untimely in that first round of filming. So they have no reason to believe that she would sue. And yet she's saying they should have known because they hired counsel and Crisis PR. They may have hired counsel because they had defamation claims potentially coming up against Blake Lively because she was smearing them. So we don't know why they hired counsel. It's a stretch to believe that they had any reason to believe they should be saving evidence. And by the way, there's no rule that you have to be writing stuff down so the other side can discover it. If they had been talking on the phone, as Plush Diary, who's a great creator here on TikTok, has discussed, would that be spoliation? So the timeline in this case is really important. The evidence in this case is really important. And I believe that Blake Lively filed this motion for attorney's fees for a inference against them at trial because she has nothing else. And it's really sad to see people ignore the evidence because bad, woman good, woman allowed to do what man do in world. That's fine. That's not the world I want to live in. Have the best day.